Just to start off, was there a personal moment of discovery for you when you discovered growing up that you had this powerful singing voice?
I always say, I didn't really discover it. I just, I started singing, and it was just something that I knew how to do, I guess I was too young to know or think that it was a gift,
Mm-hmm.
It was just something that I knew how to do.
I read a quote of yours where you said that your dad knew that you were going to be a singer before it became apparent to you. Was it something that he encouraged to bring out in you, or was he happy to just wait and let you come to that decision yourself?
I think it was a little bit of both. My father always knew that I was going to be a singer. But I think that, I had to come into it by myself, because anytime you try to push a kid or force a kid to do anything, they just kind of run away from it.
Yeah.
So I had to come to those conclusions on my own. But it was a little bit of both. He wanted me to do it, but by forcing me, he also knew that he would kind of push me away from it. So my mom and my dad kind of both, had a part in dealing with that particular situation.
Do you think a career in music would have still been the path you would have taken had your father not been a musician?
No, definitely not. I didn't have any, as a child, I didn't have any big dreams about becoming a superstar or singer,
Yeah.
I didn't know my career would do this well as, being an entertainer. I came from a family. My father was the only musician in my family. He was the only one that I knew of that did music like that. And everybody else, especially like my mom's side of the family, which was the larger side of the family, they were all hardworking people,
Yeah.
day-to-day, 9 to 5, job kind of people. So I don't know if I would have taken that path of being an artist.
Now, he brought you on stage to sing with him at a young age. For you, that must be a time you really remember fondly now.
Oh yeah, it was horrible because since the beginning, when I was at home and my dad would say, come sing a song, if somebody was at the house, I was always so petrified of being in front of people singing. I just couldn't take that. That was like the hardest part for me, being on stage and performing in front of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was terrible.
You were incredibly shy, I believe.
Oh yeah, definitely shy. I was an outgoing kid, and I would talk to you and stuff like that. But the thought of singing in front of somebody, oh my God.
A big difference.
For me, that was not.
How big a challenge was it for you to come out of that shell and have the confidence in yourself to perform on stage?
Yeah, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time. Because I was young, I think that you have to become secure in yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people, all people, have insecurities about themselves, You have insecurities about the way you look, insecurities about the way you, just everything. And you have to really not be insecure about anything. You have to have positive thoughts about yourself to be able to get up there and perform in front of people,
Yeah. What was
you almost have to like put yourself in a completely different mindset. I'm going to probably go out to the supermarket today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if somebody at that supermarket said, Can you sing me a song? I wouldn't be able to do it because I wouldn't have my makeup on, I wouldn't have my high heels on. I wouldn't be prepared,
Yeah.
And it's an attitude adjustment.
Yeah. What was the best piece of career advice you received from your father?
Let me just say, I think that to be in this business, you have to have a good head on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Not that you have to be super duper intelligent, but you just have to have a good, strong mind on your shoulders. And I think the best thing that my parents, not just my dad, my mother, and my father did for me was they just gave me all the right tools I needed to become a woman, a young, responsible adult. And then as far as advice, I learned a whole lot of what not to do from my father. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Business-wise, my father was so talented, but he didn't always have the right people, working with him, management and, stuff like that. Didn't always have the right label, things like that. And I try to be real responsible. I've always had the right management. I've always had the right booking agent, the right, labels. Everything that surrounds you needs to be good also. And he didn't always have that going on. So I learned a lot about what not to do. And as far as performing, when I did come out of my shell and started being, able to be in front of people, my father was such a great entertainer. So I watched him and I learned and I saw what he did and saw how he was with the crowd and things like that. And one of the best pieces of advice he gave me, and I use this every day now, is he says, never read the press. Because, he said, never read the press because you start to believe it. He said, if it's good, then you become cocky. And, I don't know if they use that word in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cocky, conceited, and, nobody can get next to you, one of those kind of people. And then he said, if it's bad stuff, then you become bitter and angry, and that reflects in your music and how you step out on the stage. So I don't read it. I don't read the press, ever.
You must have received, I'm sure you received a wonderful exposure to some of the greats of the blues while you were growing up. Were there any in particular that inspired you more than others?
Yeah, my daddy always took me to shows and things like that, and I would meet people like, Albert Collins and Robert Gray and Gabe Mouth Brown. He took me out to see people like Coco, other blues musicians, and in different places. So it was always inspiring to just watch them and see what they did, and see how they were different from my father. And you just saw that there was a bunch of talent out there, a lot of talented people.
Now, since you've been recording, you've also been compared to the likes of Coco Taylor and Etta James and Ruth Brown. Do these comparisons, do they put a pressure on you? Does it make you feel like all of a sudden you have something to live up to?
No, not really, because, I just think that we live in a world where people need to compare something to something because, you can't, people aren't really able to come up with something on their own and say, well, she's like this, she's like a ball of fire and a beef stew. I'm just coming up with anything. It's easier to say, oh, she's like Etta James or she's like Coco Taylor. So that's fine, but it doesn't really affect me too much. And I love all those women, and they're all great. So if they're going to compare me to anybody, you want it to be them.
Sure, there are a lot worse things to be compared to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I was amazed to read that you never had any formal vocal training at all. Is that right?
No, never had any formal vocal training.
Do you think that if you had, it may have altered the way you sing now? Perhaps it's better now that you've been left to just do what comes naturally?
I think it's good in a lot of ways. I don't think my father wanted me to have formal training because he thinks that it kind of messes up your natural talent. Mm-hmm. But there's always things that you can learn. I think now that I know what I can do, and I've come up with my own, style and my own sounds. It wouldn't hurt to learn extra things because that can only enhance your talent. But at this point, it won't change me. It would just enhance what I already know.
A few albums into your career now, have you found that your songwriting, that your confidence has grown in your own songwriting with each record?
Yes, I've never been. I will not admit to being a great songwriter, but I come up with really good ideas and do a lot of collaborating and things like that. And and it's a cool process for me.
You've been really lucky. You've had some wonderful musicians and producers involved in your record so far, and some of them, I'm sure, would have been friends of your father's. He'd be proud to see the list of people that you've been working with.
Yes, oh, definitely. He would definitely be proud.
And obviously, your relationship with Alligator Records is a good one too. It must be wonderful to deal with a label that is devoted to blues music.
Yep, they're devoted to the music. The staff is completely and totally devoted to the artists, and they work hard. It's just so bad. It's so hard for independent record labels anymore because they can't really compete with the large labels that are, spitting out millions of dollars to promote, these other artists and stuff like that. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. It makes it hard for them, but they work with you. They try really hard, and it's like everybody knows your name at that record label. You get on the phone with one of those larger labels, and they could care less about who Shemekia Copeland is. They might have one person that deals with that one particular artist. So.
Now, I've been hearing some wonderful things about your new CD, which I believe is about to be released. What can you tell us about it?
It's a really, really great record. It's a soulful, funky, contemporary record, and it's just awesome. Steve Cropper produced it, and we just have a whole host of great musicians playing on it, and it's a lot of fun.
It must have been a wonderful experience having Steve Cropper involved in the record. How did you find him to work with?
Well, I wanted to do a soul record. You come up with these ideas. You want to do a soul record, and then you think, who could produce a soul record? And, Cropper's name was the first name to come up because, I've been listening to things that he's written and music that he's played on for my whole life with Booker T and the MGs, and then he did so much work with Otis Redding and writing with him and things like that. So, I've always adored Otis Redding, so I was really excited about working with him. And, we got in contact with him, sent him my records. I was kind of nervous because he hadn't produced anything in like 15 years, and he had so many offers, but he didn't do anything. And when he said that he wanted to produce me, I was just like so honored. I was really honored.
You got some great players and guests on the record as well, and some names that we haven't heard from in quite a while down here. Felix Cavalier and Dobie Gray. How did they become involved?
All friends of Cropper.
Of course,
yeah. They were friends of Cropper's, and all it was a phone call, and they were glad to do it. They were glad to do it.
As a relatively young blues performer, have you noticed a trend towards more young people discovering the blues?
I would like to think so. I would like to think that more young people are discovering blues and finding out about it. I see more and more young people coming out to the shows, especially like at festivals and things like that. So I would like to think so.
Do you see this album coming up as one that could possibly bridge that gap even more between blues and the mainstream younger audience?
I would like to think that would help too. You just never know. The economy here in America is just not great, and records haven't been doing very well in the stores. A lot of the record stores are closing down, so there's really a lot going on here, as far as that's concerned. So you just hope and pray that, it gets out there and people hear it and it does well.
So what are your touring plans with this album?
Well, I'm going to basically tour it, all over America and hopefully all over, in Europe. I've already been to England. The album was released in England the 1st of August. So I was over there at the Cambridge Folk Festival promoting it. I'm going to be in France this weekend, and then Italy the first weekend of September. And then all the rest of September, I'm going to be touring it in the States, like the Midwest and stuff, the South. And then October, more dates in the South, and doing some dates with Buddy Guy. So we'll see what happens.
Really looking forward to hearing the album. I've heard some fantastic things about it. Is there, with this one now behind you, is there another type of record, a particular style or type of record that you've still got inside that you really want to get out there? I think I read something somewhere about you wanting to do a jazz record or something along those lines.
Yes, I've always wanted to do a jazz record. I'm not exactly sure it's time right now to do that. And I've also wanted to do a live record. And I think that, this might be my time to get that live record done. After 4 albums, I think my fans have been wanting to hear, a live record from me. So I'm going to work on that.
That would be fantastic. Look, thank you so much again for taking the time to speak with us this morning. Congratulations on 4 wonderful albums to date.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to coming down under. I was in Byron Bay, and I was in, Sydney, and we were supposed to come to Melbourne, but something happened where it didn't work out, and we ended up doing 2 shows in Byron Bay. So hopefully I will be back in Australia, and I'll be able to come to Melbourne.
That would be good. I remember we all got very excited. We thought you were coming to town, and then all of a sudden you weren't.
Exactly. Well, that was not my fault.
No, I'm sure it wasn't. Well, we'll hope so next time around when we get to see you in Melbourne. That would be great.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you again, and we'll look forward to hearing the new record.
Great.
All the best to you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.